Section 38 of Poems of American History, the Colonial Era. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Greg Giordano, Newport Richey, Florida. Poems of American History, the Colonial Era. Chapter 8, The Struggle for the Continent. Part 6. The fall of Louisburg was followed a few months later by the capture of Fort Duquesne, November 25, 1758, by General John Forbes. Forbes, at the head of an excellent army, had proceeded slowly and carefully. As the English approached, the French realized that to remain was simply to be captured. So they deserted the hopeless post, and Forbes marched in unmolested. He named his conquest Fort Pitt, after the great minister. Fort Duquesne, a historical centennial ballad, November 25, 1758 to 1858. Come, fill the beaker, while we chaunt a paean of old days. By Mars, no men shall live again more worthy of our praise than they who stormed at Louisburg and Frontenac amain, and shook the English standard out o'er the ruins of Duquesne. For glorious were the days they came, the soldiers strong and true, and glorious were the days they came for Pennsylvania too, when marched the troopers sternly on through forests autumn brown, and where St. George's cross was raised, the oriflamme went down. Virginia sent her chivalry, and Maryland her brave, and Pennsylvania to the cause her noblest yeomen gave. Oh, and proud were they who wore the garb of Indian hunters then, for every sturdy youth was worth a score of common men. They came from Carolina's pines, from fruitful Delaware. The staunchest and the stoutest of the chivalrous were there. And calm and tall above them all rode the November sun. Like Saul above his brethren rode Colonel Washington. O'er leagues of wild and waste they passed, they forded stream and fen, where danger lurked in every glade, and death in every glen. They heard the Indian rangers cry, the Frenchman's far-off hail, from purple distance echoed back through the hollows of the vale. And ever and anon they came along their dangerous way, where ghastly mid the yellow leaves their slaughtered comrades lay. The tartans of Grant's Highlanders were sodden yet and red, as routed in the rash assault they perished as they fled. Ah, many a lass ayont the Tweed shall rue the fatal fray, and high Virginian dame shall mourn the ruin of that day, when gallant lad and cavalier in the wilderness were slain, twixt laureled Loyalhanna and the outposts of Duquesne. And there before them was the field of massacre and blood, of panic, rout, and shameful flight in that disastrous wood, where Halket fell and Braddock died, with many a noble one, whose white bones glistened through the leaves in the pale November sun. Then spoke the men of Braddock's field, and hung their heads in shame, for England's tarnished honor, and for England's sullied fame. And, by St. George, the soldiers swore, we'll wipe away the stain before tomorrow's sunset at the trenches of Duquesne. 'Twas night along the autumn hills, the sun's November gleam had left its crimson on the leaves, its tinge upon the stream, and hermit Silence kept his watch mid ancient rocks and trees, and placed his finger on the lip of babbling brook and breeze. The bivouac set by Turtle Creek, and while the soldiers sleep, The swarthy chiefs around the fires in anxious council keep. Some spoke of murmurs in the camp, scarce whispered to the air, but tokens of discouragement, the presage of despair. Some a retreat advised, 'twas late, the winter drawing on. The forage and provision, too, so Ormsby said, were gone. Men could not feed on air and fight, whatever Pitt might say. In praise or censure, still they thought 'twere wiser to delay. Then up spoke iron-headed Forbes, and through his feeble frame there ran the lightning of a will that put them all to shame. "I'll hear no more," he roundly swore, "we'll storm the fort amain. I'll sleep in hell to-morrow night, or sleep in Fort Duquesne." So said, and each to sleep addressed his wearied limbs and mind, and all was hushed in the forest, save the sobbing of the wind, and the tramp, tramp, tramp of the sentinel, who started oft in fright at the shadows wrought mid the giant trees by the fitful camp-fire light. Good Lord, what sudden glare is that reddens all the sky, as though hell's legions rode the air and tossed their torches high? Up, men! The alarm drum beats to arms, and the solid ground seems riven by the shock of warring thunderbolts in the lurid depth of heaven. Oh, there was clattering of steel, and mustering in array, and shouts, and wild huzzas of men impatient of delay. As came the scouts swift-footed in, they fly, the foe, they fly. They've fired the powder magazine, and blown it to the sky. Now morning over the frosty hills in autumn splendor came, and touched the rolling mists with gold, and flecked the clouds with flame. And through the brown woods on the hills, those altars of the world, the blue smoke from the settler's hut and Indian's wigwam curled. Yet never here had morning dawned on such a glorious din of twanging trump and rattling drum and clanging culverin, and glittering arms and sabre gleams and serried ranks of men, who marched with banners high advanced along the river glen. Oh, and royally they bore themselves, who knew that o'er the seas would speed the glorious tidings from the loyal colonies, of the fall of French dominion with the fall of Fort Duquesne, and the triumph of the English arms from Erie to Champlain. Before high noon they halted, and while they stood at rest, they saw unfolded gloriously the gateway of the West. There flashed the Allegheny like a scimitar of gold, and kinglike in its majesty Monongahela rolled. Beyond the river beautiful swept down the woody vales, where commerce ere a century past should spread her thousand sails. Between the hazy hills they saw Contrecoeur's armed bateaux, and the flying, flashing, feathery oars of the Ottawa's canoes. Then on from rank to rank of men a shout of triumph ran, and while the cannon thundered, the leader of the van, the tall Virginian, mounted on the walls that smoldered yet, and shook the English standard out, and named the place Fort Pitt. Again with wild huzzas the hills and river valleys ring, and they swing their loyal caps in air, and shout, "Long live the King!" "Long life unto King George!" they cry, "and glorious be the reign that adds to English statesman Pitt, to English arms Duquesne." Florius B. Plimpton. Pitt determined to strike a blow at the very center of French power, and on June 26, 1759, an English fleet of 22 ships of the line, with frigates, sloops of war, and transports carrying 9,000 regulars, appeared before Quebec. In command of this great expedition was Major General James Wolfe, who had played so dashing a part in the capture of Louisburg the year before. and was soon to win immortal glory. Hot Stuff, June, 1759. Come, each death-doing dog who dares venture his neck, come, follow the hero that goes to Quebec. Jump aboard of the transports, and loose every sail. Pay your debts at the tavern by giving leg bail. And ye that love fighting shall soon have enough. Wolfe commands us, my boys, we shall give them hot stuff. Up the river St. Lawrence our troops shall advance. To the Grenadiers' march we will teach them to dance. Cape Breton we have taken, and next we will try At their capital to give them another black eye. Vaudreuil, 'tis in vain you pretend to look gruff. Those are coming who know how to give you hot stuff. With powder in his periwig, and snuff in his nose, Monsieur will run down our descent to oppose. And the Indians will come, but the light infantry will soon oblige them to betake to a tree. From such rascals as they may we fear a rebuff. Advance, Grenadiers, and let fly your hot stuff. When the 47th Regiment is dashing ashore, while bullets are whistling and cannon do roar, says Montcalm, those are Shirley's, I know the lapels. You lie, says Ned Botwood, we belong to Lascelles. Though our clothing is changed, yet we scorn a powder puff. So at ye bitches, here's give you hot stuff. Edward Botwood. About the end of August, a place was found where the heights might be scaled, and an assault was ordered for the night of Wednesday, September 12. The night arrived. Every preparation had been made, and every order given. It only remained to wait the turning of the tide. Wolfe was on board the flagship Sutherland, and to while away the hours of waiting, he is said to have written the little song, How Stands the Glass Around? How stands the glass around? September 12, 1759. How stands the glass around? For shame, you take no care, my boys. How stands the glass around? Let mirth and wine abound. The trumpets sound. The colors they are flying, boys. To fight, kill, or wound. May we still be found, content with our hard fate, my boys, on the cold ground. Why, soldiers, why should we be melancholy, boys? Why, soldiers, why? Whose business 'tis to die? What, sighing fie? Don't fear, drink on, be jolly, boys. 'Tis he, you, or I. Cold, hot, wet, or dry, we're always bound to follow, boys, and scorn to fly. 'Tis but in vain, I mean not to upbraid you, boys. 'Tis but in vain for soldiers to complain. Should next campaign send us to him who made us, boys, we're free from pain. But if we remain, a bottle and a kind landlady cure all again. James Wolfe. End of Section 38.